The moment the coffin touched the ground, a hand closed around my wrist. I thought it was grief playing tricks on me, until the lawyer leaned in so close I could smell his cologne and whispered, "Miss, please, don't say anything yet. Not until you hear this." My heart stopped harder than the church bells outside, because everyone else thought my grandmother died powerless. They were wrong. The chapel was packed with people who hadn't visited her in years. My aunts cried the loudest, my uncles bowed their heads the lowest, and my cousins clutched tissues like props in a play they'd rehearsed. I stood at the edge, quiet, invisible, just like I'd been my whole life. The same way I'd been invisible when my grandmother paid my school fees in secret. Invisible when she slipped me handwritten notes about saving, about patience, about truth. The lawyer guided me into a small side room. His voice shook. "Your grandmother insisted I speak to you before the will is read," he said. "She knew today would be messy." I laughed softly, because messy was an understatement. This was a family that emptied her house the week she went into hospice. The same family that told me I shouldn't come to the funeral early because I wouldn't understand the arrangements. I nodded and followed him back into the chapel, where the air buzzed with fake sorrow and quiet greed. The reading began. Gasps rippled through the pews as the first assets were listed. Not to my aunts, not to my uncles, but to charities my grandmother loved. Faces tightened. My mother's hand trembled. Then the lawyer paused, adjusted his glasses, and said my name. I felt every eye burn into me. He read calmly, each word a match to dry leaves. The house my grandmother lived in for 40 years. Mine. The accounts everyone assumed were drained. Mine. The shares my uncle bragged about selling. Never his to sell. Mine. A trust established quietly years ago, with instructions that could not be contested. My aunt stood up, shouting that it was a mistake. My cousin laughed nervously, then stopped when the lawyer continued. "There's also a letter," he said, looking straight at me, "written in your grandmother's hand." He read it aloud, about how they mocked her frugality while borrowing her money, how they called me naive while I sat with her during chemo, how they planned to handle the will after she passed. She named dates, amounts, lies. The room exploded. My uncle accused the lawyer of manipulation. My mother cried that family should come first. Someone demanded I refuse the inheritance for peace. I didn't move. I remembered the nights my grandmother squeezed my fingers and said, "Be calm when the storm comes." Calm scares liars. Then the lawyer delivered the final blow. Per your grandmother's instructions, any family member who disrupts this reading forfeits the small bequest set aside for them. Silence felt like a drop plate. Outside, after the service, they surrounded me. Apologies arrived too fast, too polished. Promises followed. I listened, nodded, and walked away. That night, I unlocked the house they thought was already theirs. In the study, I found another envelope taped under the desk. Inside was a final note. "They will try to make you feel cruel. You are not. You are prepared." I didn't post online. I didn't argue. I did something better. I honored her. I funded the scholarship she dreamed of. I restored the house and kept one room exactly the same, her chair by the window, her books marked with notes. And when the family tried to sue, the court dismissed it in minutes. At my grandmother's funeral, they came to bury her and divide the spoils. Instead, she stood up through me, told the truth, and showed everyone that quiet doesn't mean weak. It means waiting for the perfect moment to speak.